Hey, it's your girl Yvette Rawlison, and we're here for another episode of Dear Black Man. I know I promised you we were going to unpack what happened in episode 1, but I'm new at this and it got to be a little too much. So we're going to circle back around, but today we have a cool interview and we're going to take the focus off of me and just focus on unity. Dear Black Man, we breathe, we kneel, and we stand with you. We love you, Black Man. Remember, subscribe to Yvette Rawlison, Dear Black Man. This channel was designed to have discussions and conversations to promote unity between the Black man and the Black woman. Stay tuned. To have my second guest for Dear Black Man here, Country. He is from New Jersey, and he is a cousin, a family member of a good friend of mine. So we're going to talk to him a little bit today about some different topics with the Dear Black Man series. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? First of all, I like to ask everyone I interview, do you consider yourself an alpha male?
No, I'm not.
Okay. And why don't you consider yourself an alpha male? Can you expand a little bit?
It feels like a made-up term that people have attached to themselves to boost up their ego, so to speak, because we weren't defining ourselves by these terms 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Okay. So the reason why I ask you that, just to set some context for the audience, some of your views, some of the answers, some of the questions that I'm going to ask will reflect, if you're an alpha, or do you consider yourself a beta male?
Consider myself a man.
Okay, so you consider yourself a man. Okay, good. All right, so let's get started. I know a lot of Black women were a little bit upset with Kevin Samuels, and unfortunately Kevin Samuels passed away. So I don't want to focus, totally on him, and I'm not trying to go against him or duplicate him, but I want to talk because some of the things he talked about inspired me to do this. I want to talk a little bit about some of the reasons that Black women are upset at some of the things he said. So what do you feel is needed for Black men and Black women to get along, just in general, especially in their 40s and 50s, and as we get a little older, past the 35 mark?
I think one thing that you need from any age is foundational respect. So if you respect any person that you're talking to, interacting with, trying to get to know, you need to have respect. That's the basics. So once you have the basics, you can build to whatever point you're trying to get to from there. But without that, your whole foundation is messed up. And that's where I think we find ourselves in this current situation between men and Black women when it comes to terms of dating, getting to know, associating, whatever you want to call it. We're losing the mutual respect for one another.
So on some of the shows that have been presented, Black women felt that Kevin Samuels was disrespectful. Can you speak to that a little bit? Do you think, and you can use specific if you want, or generalizations?
I didn't personally follow Kevin Samuels, but of course he came across multiple social media platforms that I am on, so I have a working knowledge of how he was, how he came across. To me, he told inconvenient truths in the sense that people are pretty much promoting their ego a lot on social media, trying to fly themselves, since like the question you asked about being an alpha male or a beta male. Those are terms that were used to describe wolf packs. And since most people don't have a fundamental knowledge of how wolf packs operate, they kind of gravitated to that because, like I said, it made them feel some kind of way. When my definition of a man didn't come from an animal. My definition of a man came from my father, my grandfather, my uncles, my brothers, my male cousins, and men I chose to look up to within society or history or whatever. But that's part of the issue right there. We're getting away from certain definitions of things and trying to make up terms on the go. So we're kind of losing the knowledge of ourselves, trying to make ourselves seem more than what we are.
So when you say that, do you mean men are trying to make themselves more than they are, or women? Because I know one of the things that kind of caused the tension, a lot of black men believe that women are just about vain attention. Women think too highly of themselves, and like Kevin Samuels was trying to get across, that there are men that are available, there are men that will treat you well, but everyone wants what he did not deem, but what society deems as a high value male. So what do you think about that? Do you think women have the right to aim a certain way, or
women deserve whatever they're willing to work for, whatever they're willing to strive for, whatever they're willing to aspire to. It isn't about anything that a woman deserves. Women are finding themselves in very favorable positions that they weren't in 20 years ago. Opportunities that I have 4 sisters, I have a mother. Opportunities that my mother may not have been able to have when she was a young woman, my sisters may have. I have young nieces. They're going to have way substantial opportunities that their grandmother and their aunts didn't have because of what their mothers, their cousins, their female cousins are doing.
So how do you think that affects relationships, though? Because I think what black women are experiencing, they felt disrespected because they felt like they were told they don't deserve these opportunities, or they can't act on these opportunities. And that takes me back to my original topic about unrequited love, and in session 1, where a friend of mine was saying, well, all these other men are available, but you want to wait on this one, or you should be doing this.
A couple of questions for me to you to expand on it. You asked, what do women deserve? So you're a woman. What is your view of, or what was your trajectory from a young woman to being the woman you are now? What were you told that you couldn't do in your younger years that was probably true for a certain time, and then you found that wasn't true, that was society trying to repress your opportunities, repress your desire to do more, to have more, and then you found, I can do these things, I want to do these things, I want to pursue these things, and were you denied the access to continue seeking those opportunities?
I don't feel like I was. Now, I was married, fairly young, so I feel like I was married, I was able to get my education, raise a family. I had to put some things to the side. And then, unfortunately, I got divorced. But I don't feel like I was denied that. But at the same time, I'm divorced. So I don't feel like I succeeded in making it all work as well. But I don't think I was actually denied. I think I had the ability to be able to try those different things. Like, I could try a career, I could be a mother and be a wife. But the thing now is, they're saying high value men, so to speak, want more traditional. And I wouldn't fit that mold because I'm not considered submissive by most terms. Now, you said submissive. You said you're not an alpha male, so you just consider yourself a man. So it works a little differently. But, the terms that were coined, alpha males want this type of woman. And by society standards, I don't fit that. So in today's standard, I would be denied, according to a lot of these podcasts and different, things that people are saying. But I don't feel that way. I feel that I am able, and I was able to date who I want and still be who I want.
In regards to standards, because that's another thing to bring it back to what you said about the opinion of Kevin Samuels. let's talk about standards. Where do we get our standards from? When you're a little person, where do you get your standards from?
Your parents. I got my standards from my mother and father. I grew up with both parents.
Do you feel you were able to live out the standards that you saw between your parents and their marriage when you chose to get married when you were young?
No, because I am divorced. So
well,
no,
that's the ultimate. That's the end result. But I'm saying within the construct of your marriage initially,
yes.
were you able to?
Yes, because instead of taking a very high profile job, or I put kind of that part of my career on hold. I still worked. I still earned a degree, but my main focus was to my husband and my children. But by today's standards, they're saying this is why black women are a little upset. They're saying no. Black men are saying no. You can't have both. You're either going to be my wife, and you're going to do that right, or you're going to go this way, or you're going to be alone. That's the tension. So I was trying to figure out, how do you feel about that? Have you ever been married?
No, I have not.
Okay. Do you plan on getting married?
That's the plan.
Okay. So from a male's point of view, do you feel like you're in your 40s, correct?
I'll be 41 in July.
Okay. So do you feel like your future wife can do both?
Yes. That's the issue with, like I said, why I wasn't a fan of Kevin Samuels, or I didn't follow him. He wasn't really on my radar like that. I didn't understand this choice that was being presented to women, in the sense that you can't have both. When I'm like, you have to have examples of people being and having both, wanting to have a career, wanting to chase certain aspirations and whatnot, but also have the family structure to build their family, to grow their family, to have the love and everything, the support that comes from that. I didn't understand why you can't have both. Anything that you choose to have in your life requires work and effort. I think that's where the issue comes from. This whole thing with high value, the high value aspect of that, or those comments, to me, this is just my opinion, is from more of a capitalistic mindset in regards to you put value on a person based on what they earn, when instead of putting it on their character and their integrity and what they mean to family. Those are the things that you were taught to value before it turned into this social media circus surrounding Kevin Samuels. So then it's created this dynamic where if you, being a black woman, do you feed into that narrative that you can't have both, that you can't have family, that you can't have a career, that you can't chase your dreams within the proper perspective?
I personally don't, because for me, it's not about a high value man the way it's defined by society and Kevin Samuels. For me, high value man, of course I want a man that could, take care of me and provide and things like that. But I also don't mind working because I don't have little children. And I also don't put the value on a specific dollar sign. So high value for me, 400,000 for me is the same as 100,000. In that sense, because I think you can work with that. So it's more about the intellect, the quality of life and all that. And it doesn't take money necessarily at my age for that to be part of it. But what he's saying is high value men typically want younger women anyway. They don't want a 52-year-old divorcee anyway. So that's where the tension is. Is that true? Should I think differently? And then they put in perspective. That's why I asked you, were you an alpha male or not? Because a lot of the content, a lot of the comments, high value men are alpha males typically in some of this. So we have a lot in that pot. So me personally, that's not what I focus on. I focus more on biblical principles, and money's not something that a man doesn't have to make a certain amount for me to date him. But he does have to have a certain level of intellect. He does have to have a certain work ethic. And I do like what I like. But, he's saying that, or he said, not just Kevin Samuels, but the talk in media is, a woman like me is difficult. But that's not necessarily true, because I would give up certain things to stand behind my mate.
Define difficult.
Black women are thought of as not cooperative, because especially like my age, are saying, well, you already have the house, you already have this, are you going to give all this, what you work so hard for, up to come follow your man? And I would do that under the right circumstances. But then I was also told there is no such thing as being submissive under certain circumstances. You either are or you're not. And that's where all the tension comes in.
I also believe the tension comes in, to use what you said, following biblical standards. So I have a grandfather who was a preacher. I have 2 uncles. My father's a deacon. I'm not a preacher's kid. I'm not in a church like that, but certain things still held on to me, and I held on to them. One thing I do know or recall is that Scripture says a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. So to find something, it has to be available. You can't find what doesn't exist. So if there aren't any available wives to find, where does that leave the men? And vice versa. It doesn't say that a wife finds a husband, but it also says that a wife can tear down her house with her own hands, to mean how you nurture the children, how you support the husband, And the same thing. The man should provide the home, the safety, the protection, bring home the proverbial bacon and all of that. And it's like, it's a give and take. That's where a lot of the dysfunction seems to be coming from. We claim that we want to have a relationship, a marriage based on biblical standards. And we're not really a biblical society. So either we're telling fibs to ourselves, or we're just saying the right things. So what would be going through the motions?
What would be your main advice to black women that are over 35 that want to marry, but they still have their high value, so to speak, man fantasy? Do you agree? Because a lot of people are saying, well, you need to lower your standards. And that's what got black women upset. Is it so much that they need to lower their standards, or do they need to reevaluate themselves, or do they need to make themselves more desirable? Like you said, if they're not available, but what are you calling available?
You don't have to, I don't believe you have to lower your standards. You may have to reevaluate your standards. You may have to take introspect and decide who is driving the proverbial car in your life. So are you setting your standards, or is society setting your standards? Are you following the crowd, or are you a leader of your own life? That's, once again, these are like the issues that everybody's kind of dealing with, but they wanted to use Kevin Samuels as the scapegoat. All Kevin Samuels did as a man, for me looking at it, was telling inconvenient truths to women who have gotten to a certain point. And it's not all women. It's not the attitude that black women are branded with is not exclusive to them. If you're a man and you've dated women of other races, you know that attitude exists in all women.
But he's saying the complete opposite. Well, it was my understanding. He's saying that it happens most with black women. Like black women.
Well, he's a black man. He may have or may have not dated black women predominantly. So he can speak to that to a certain degree. And he was 56 years old? Mm-hmm. So if I'm 40, he's dated significantly longer than I have. He may have, traveled the world. So he may have had access to a different type of women over different periods in his life. So he can speak to that. And then other men can relate to that. Everybody can't relate to everything. If I don't know something, I can't speak on it. So, and when it comes to healthy relationships, not too many people can speak on that. But it doesn't mean that nobody can speak to that. Right. So it's like, if I know that I haven't experienced a healthy relationship, I got to sit back and be willing to be quiet and learn. What does it take to have a healthy relationship?
And so what would you, because this is about bringing unity in our perspectives, what would you, as we close the interview, what would your advice be to Black women in general that want to find happy, healthy relationships?
Set your own standards. Believe in yourself. Truly love yourself. But love yourself enough to listen to those who are willing to give you good counsel. So if you have elders in your life, grandmother, older aunts, older uncles, whatnot, take the time to listen to them. Take the time to look at what they were able to build. Or if they built it and it didn't even last, what did they learn from it? I think our issue is that we're holding on to this fantasy of, we're going to meet someone and we're going to get married and we're going to live happily ever after. I always said that when we were little, boys and girls, we were both told those stories. But for whatever reason, it held root in women in a way that plays itself out in the dating world, where they think that they're going to meet this prince and this Prince Charming and this knight in shining armor. I don't think men think like that. There are men who do, but as a whole, men don't think like that. The men have a very solid footing. Men, once again, not no alpha man, not no beta man, not no caveman, just a man who has his own backbone, who has his own mind, who has his own heart, who has his own thoughts. He doesn't sway with the wind. Like when we spoke earlier, that once again, I don't know the Bible back and forth, but certain scriptures come to mind often. Like I said earlier, the ways of a double-minded man, he's unstable in all his ways. So to be stable, you have to be firm and rooted in what you stand for. So with women, if you want the quote-unquote high-value man, to use what you said, the salary, a man that makes $400,000 works a lot. You know, if you make $400,000, you can't be home. So if I give you money, I can't give you time. You need time to build a relationship. So you gotta invest one thing to sacrifice another to get the ultimate goal. But if you want money to live the lifestyle and then splash all over social media. So when you say what do women need, you got to get out of that mindset, because you're setting yourself up for failure in that regard. If your life is based on, I got to have this, and this so I can show off, it ain't gonna work. You gotta take time to sow your love, grow your love, establish your love, so that you can build what you truly want. So you can have that happy. There are certain sacrifices that you're going to have to make. And the same thing goes for anything you say about a woman, a man has to do it. But then a man has to take on the added bonus of being that protector, being that leader, having integrity, having character, not being perfect. None of that means being perfect. It means pursue those things to the best of your ability. Surround yourself with people who have that in abundance that can keep you, that can pick you up along the way if you fall short.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because my original title was Unrequited Love, No Pejorative Stereotypes. So I'm glad you touched on that, because unrequited love means one-sided love. And that's what a lot of women feel, from my experience that I talk to, when they have men, because I actually know women that are married to men that make, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they do feel it's one-sided. They have all the material things, but they don't get the time.
Was
You know,
that
and
was the
so-
deal? That was the deal they made.
Right. And so it does feel like, even though it's not, hopefully in their marriage, one-sided love, and then the stereotype that I want to kind of break down, I don't think that the woman should kind of be penalized or looked at a certain way because she is married to a high-value man. If it's not just for money, you know, if they did have the love and all that, and he chose to work a lot to provide for the family. So those are just the conversations that we want to like to show different perspectives. So I really appreciate you coming all the way from New Jersey to Pennsylvania to be on the show. Thanks again for tuning in for episode 2 of Dear Black Fan. I want to thank Country for being the guest. He had some good takeaways that we're going to discuss. He talked a lot about respect. He also said he was neither an alpha male or a beta male. Never quite heard it put like that, so we're going to talk about that next time. And then remember, we're going to circle around and unpack what happened in session 1 and then tie it to this session in session 2. And you're going to have to watch session 3 to get it all and see how it all fits together. Remember, Black man, we breathe, we kneel, and we stand with you. We love you.